You're listening to The Pump Fake.
All right, everybody. Hello and welcome into the Pump Fake, brought to you by FanDuel. Jarrett Bailey here with you as always. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Week 15 in the NFL kicking off in a matter of hours. Tampa Bay, Atlanta. Ahead of that, though, I'll give you my best bets for the weekend. Again, 5 bets against the spread that I love the most. And then before we get out, I'll give you my power rankings heading into week 15. So if you are watching live on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. If you're listening as a podcast, comment, follow along with the show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. All right. All odds, again, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. So let's dive into it. Bet number 1. It could come back to bite me, but I've had success when it comes to like live betting the Jets this year. I'm just going to take them plus 13.5 against Jacksonville. That is such a big number. Such a big number. I understand that Jacksonville is feeling themselves right now. They're 9-4. They're sitting atop the AFC South. We don't really know what's going on at the quarterback situation for the Jets right now. But 13.5, that's such a big number. The Jets on the year, 3-1-1 against the spread as the away team. And over the last month, like since the trade deadline, barring what happened against Miami, but defensively, they've been solid despite getting rid of Quentin Williams and Sauce Gardner. And again, the game against Miami, the Dolphins just came out hungry. And that has very much been an exception to what we've seen from the Jets over the last month or so. Played really well against Atlanta and got a win. So we've seen them come out defensively much stronger than I think a lot of us would have thought after trading away their 2 best defenders. So 13.5 is a huge number. If you don't feel confident in that, if you have a teaser this weekend, tease that up to 19.5 and include it in a teaser. I certainly will probably include it in both. But Jets plus 13.5. Again, huge number. Give me the points. Jacksonville's also very volatile. And, you know, I'm a Trevor Lawrence guy. I picked them to win the AFC South coming into this year. But they're very volatile. And they can have those games where they look like world beaters and have big wins in prime time against, like Kansas City. But they can also have games where they stutter and they, don't look like themselves, blow big lead to Davis Mills and the Texans. These are the Jaguars. I like them. I don't love them. And I think that the Jets, while the Jaguars will win 2 touchdowns, I do think that they can cover. Even if it's a backdoor cover, we don't care how it's done. I think that 13.5 is a very big number that Jacksonville will not cover. So plus 13.5 for the Jets. Next up, Buffalo minus 1.5 against the Patriots. This just comes down to a gut instinct of I don't think the Patriots are going to beat Buffalo twice. And the Bills are getting hot at the right time. Now, they've been volatile themselves throughout this year, where they've beaten Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, but they've also lost to Michael Penix and Davis Mills. It's been a really weird team, but getting a huge win last week at home in the snow, putting up a ton of points and doing so against Cincinnati. I really believe in what Buffalo's doing right now. And I also believe in New England. If you remember in the preseason, I picked them to be a playoff team. I had them as the 7 seed going 10-7. They've already eclipsed the 10-win mark that I had them at. But I believe in New England, and I believe in Drake May. Don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means. I think the Patriots, there's a lot of detractors with New England right now, pointing to their schedule and saying, look at who they've played. Yeah, well, they've also beaten the piss out of a lot of these bad teams that they've played. And they beat Buffalo on the road, and they beat Tampa on the road. So they've had wins that have been impressive this season. And even the games against these bad teams that they've beaten, they've looked impressive and thoroughly smashed them in the process. So this isn't any sort of, bashing of the Patriots. I believe in the Patriots. I believe in Drake May, and I believe in Mike Vrabel. Defensively, there's a little bit to be desired. They're one of the, they're in the bottom half of total defense in terms of EPA. And I think that Buffalo can take advantage of that. They had opportunities to take advantage of it in the first matchup between these two teams. We saw Christian Gonzalez had a terrific game. And hopefully, these new pieces that they've added, maybe we see, Gabe Davis have a big game. He's been Josh's go-to receiver since he came back and got caught up from the practice squad. Maybe they'll try to stretch the field a little bit with Brandon Cooks. Tyrell Shaver's a guy who they've worked in a lot as well. But I believe in the Bills. I don't think that they're going to get swept by New England. So give me the Bills, and I'll lay the 1.5 as well. Another big number here. Cardinals plus 9.5 on the road against Houston. The Cardinals are 5-1 against the spread on the road this year. Houston is only 3-3 as a favorite when it comes to covering. Houston, yeah, they've won a lot over the last month or so, and they've gotten hot and have inserted themselves into the playoff picture as well as the AFC South race, but they're not blowing teams out. The vast majority of their games have been close games, as have the Cardinals. They got the hell beat out of them by the Rams last week, but if you look at a lot of their losses this season, especially in about the first 7 weeks of the year, they were all one-score losses. 9.5, big number. And in terms of both defenses, I believe in what Arizona can do defensively. They got a lot of young talent on that side of the ball, and Houston's offense has not been great. So you might also want to look at the over-under for this game. I can actually get that pulled up real quick if anybody is curious as to what it is. But over-under for this game might also be a worthy play. It's 42.5. That could be, something fun to put a little bit on. But definitely taking Arizona plus 9.5. Again, a team that can and has kept games close throughout the majority of the season, coming off a bad loss to the Rams in terms of how bad they lost, getting beat by 45-17. I don't think we're going to see a performance like that in consecutive weeks from Arizona. If we do, then I think it's pretty safe to say Jonathan Gannon won't be the coach of the Cardinals on Monday. But I think they cover. I think Houston wins and keeps this going in terms of the momentum that they have had over the last month and a half, chasing the AFC South title. They're within a game now of Jacksonville, and they've caught up to the Colts, who've kind of torpedoed. By the way, Phillip Rivers, what a story. We're going to talk about that a lot more in the preview show tomorrow, but did just want to get a quick mention of that in. Cardinals plus 9.5. That is my number 3 best bet of the week. Number 4, give me the Bengals plus 2.5. Despite being without Joe Burrow for the majority of the year, the Bengals are 3-3 as home dogs against the spread. So they've kept games close, at least within the number, this season with Jake Browning, Joe Flacco. This is Burrow's first home game since returning to the lineup. Remember, the game was in Baltimore on Thanksgiving, and this past week they were in Buffalo. So his first home game since returning from the injury. Baltimore's, they have torpedoed. And when looking at what the Ravens have done, especially last week against Pittsburgh, where the same demons show up for them. Lamar is clearly not himself. The hamstring is still a lingering issue, as well as a toe and potentially a knee. Like, he's got a bunch of stuff going on right now. Defensively, they've cleaned up their act a little bit since, the first 5-6 weeks or so of the season, but this still isn't an elite unit. And not to mention the fact that Derrick Henry hasn't had a great year. The interior of the offensive line can be beat. I just don't think the Ravens are a team that we have to take super seriously going down the stretch here. They're 6-7. They are on the outside looking in. They control their own destiny. If they win out, they win the AFC North. But the same can be said for the Bengals in terms of if they win out, they have to get a little bit of help, but they can still win out, go 8-9, and if a few dominoes fall their way, they win the division, host a playoff game. It's slim, but as long as there are hopes and as long as they're mathematically alive, I can't count out Cincinnati, especially just because the AFC North just hasn't been good as it pertains to the Steelers and the Ravens. So I'm going to take the Bengals plus 2.5. And I'll tell you this, I think they're going to win straight up. Again, 3-3 as home dogs. The Ravens this season, 4-7 against the spread when they are favorited. So that's certainly saying a lot. So yeah, give me the Bengals to cover, but also to win straight up. And last but not least, give me the Eagles at home. It's a big number, 11.5, but they're facing the Las Vegas Raiders, the worst team in football. Kenny Pickett looks like he's going to be in line to start. And, you know, as a Steelers fan, I know that those are words you don't want to hear. So Philadelphia, they've lost 3 straight. They've been in a funk. What better way to get right than to play the Las Vegas Raiders? If they lose to the Raiders, that's 4 games in a row. I think this feels very 2023-esque when they started 10-1 and then lost 5 of their last 6 and then lost to Tampa Bay in the wild card round. We will start having and seeing shades of 2023 should they lose to Vegas. Even if they beat Vegas and it comes down to like a last-second field goal, there's going to be there already are real questions, but there's going to be much louder questions about the Eagles going forward. I'm going to take them to win and cover. Again, it's a big number, but you're playing against a bad Raiders defense, a bad Raiders offense, quarterbacked by Kenny Pickett more than likely because Geno Smith is dealing with an injury. So I will take the Eagles to win, and I will lay the points with 11.5. Big number, but you know, if there's any team you can get it done against, it's the Raiders. Las Vegas, by the way, 2-4 against the spread as the away team thus far. So they haven't been great at covering. They've had a few stinkers this year. I mean, they lost to the Colts. It was at 40-6 earlier in the season. They've had games where they just don't look like a professional team. They've made so many coaching changes already. Fired Chip Kelly. Again, probably going to be starting Kenny Pickett in this game. 11.5, big number, but I do think that the Eagles will be able to cover it just considering how bad the Raiders have been. So let's get it up on the graphic here. Best bets for week 15. Again, let's run through them. The Bills, -1.5 against the New England Patriots. The Eagles, -11.5 against the Raiders. Big number. They can get it done. The Jets, +13.5. That's a ginormous number against a Jaguars team that I just don't trust wholeheartedly. The Bengals, +2.5. I also think they're just going to win straight up. And then the Cardinals, +9.5. They'll keep it close against Houston. If you parlay all of those together on FanDuel, it comes to +24.53 odds. So if you bet $10, you win just over $240 if they all hit. And so that is the best bets of week 15. We'll be right back with the power rankings after this word from Whatnot. This episode of the Pump Fake is brought to you by Whatnot. Guys, if you know me, you know how big of a nerd I am. That's right, Rex Ryan. Mike McDaniel isn't the only nerd boy associated with the NFL. I've given a tour of my office before on social media. It's decked out wall to wall with a lot of Batman toys, collectibles, horror stuff, Michael Myers, Art the Clown. As you see behind me in the backdrop, lots of NFL memorabilia and things of that nature. And a lot of this stuff, specifically all the DC and all the horror, a lot of that stuff was found on Whatnot. And whether you are into Batman like me, if you're a Marvel person, another DC entity, horror, pro wrestling, NFL, NBA, NHL, whatever sport tickles your fancy, I promise Whatnot has something for you. Click on the link in the description to get started today and find something for you, for somebody else. It's almost Christmas time. Maybe you want to find somebody special in your life, something that they enjoy collecting or something associated with it. Whatnot is the perfect place to go for all of your collectible needs, or again, somebody that you value in your life and their collectible wants and needs. And with it being the holiday season, this is the perfect time to get started. So head over to whatnot.com. The link is in the description below, and start sharing, shopping, and connecting. All right, welcome back to the Pump Fake, brought to you by FanDuel. Best bets are done. And again, if you're just joining live, I'll put those back on the screen real quick. Buffalo -1.5 against New England Patriots. The Eagles -11.5 against the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a big number, but they can get it done. The Jets +13.5 against the Jaguars. Bengals +2.5 against the Ravens at home. And then the Arizona Cardinals +9.5 on the road against the Houston Texans. Those are the best bets. So let's now dive into the power rankings for week 15. And here we go. So in first place, the Los Angeles Rams, they stay in first place. They stayed there even after the loss to Carolina. And then they rebounded in a huge way against Arizona. Feel very good about the Rams. That's a team that not only do I think they can come out of the NFC, I think they will at this point. My preseason Super Bowl pick was Green Bay. I think that's going to be your NFC Championship game. It's just the consistency that we see from the Rams is greater than that we see from Green Bay. Green Bay is my number 2 team, though. Again, I think both these teams will end up playing in the NFC title game. And what a title game that'll be. Matthew Stafford versus Jordan Love. I hope that's what we get. The Bills move up a spot after beating the Bengals in epic fashion, comeback fashion in the fourth quarter. Big game for Josh Allen, one of his best games of all time. Patriots were on a bye. They dropped 2 spots. Maybe not fair, but they can certainly get those spots back with a win against Buffalo this week. The Lions climb up a couple spots after a win over the Dallas Cowboys last Thursday night. So they are back in the top 5. Seattle drops a spot. Houston goes up to number 7. That is maybe the hottest team in the NFL right now, are the Houston Texans. I think right now you can make the case that they could win not just one playoff game, but if the defense keeps playing like this, they could be a dark horse to get to the AFC title game. Denver climbs up a spot. And then to category number 2, the Eagles fall as they lose another game, and they are now in 9th. I kept the Bears at 10. Yes, they lost to Green Bay, but I think that they proved themselves as a real quality team in the NFC playoff race. I don't think that they deserve to fall. It was a quality performance from Caleb Williams. Obviously, he ended it with a bad pick, but this is a real Bears team that can make some noise. 49ers climb up 1 spot to 11. The Chargers climb up 4 spots to 12 after defeating the Philadelphia Eagles, getting 5 takeaways on Monday night. The Jaguars jump up 4 spots as well to number 13. The Cowboys, biggest fallers of the week, I believe, down to 14. I had them in the top 10 after beating Philadelphia and Dallas. Philadelphia and Kansas City. They fall after losing to Detroit in a game that the result was never really in doubt. Wasn't a good George Pickens game. CeeDee Lamb gets hurt. This is a Cowboys team whose playoff odds are very slim. They have to root for this Eagles downfall to continue, really, if they want any shot at making the postseason. Kansas City continues to slide. Not much else we can really say. 6-7. They got to win out and get a little bit of help. Tampa Bay, a team that we had in the top 5 consistently throughout the first about month and a half of the season. They lose to New Orleans in one of the upsets of week 14. So now at 7-6, they have the same record as the Carolina Panthers, and they play each other twice in this final month. So that will certainly determine, those games will determine who wins the NFC South. Miami climbs up a few more spots. They have won 4 in a row. They've gone from 2-7 to 6-7. Monday night game against Pittsburgh looking very, very important in terms of playoff stakes. Carolina climbs up another spot. I know that they're 7-6. I just cannot, this. That's not a Super Bowl team. It's been a very cool story to see what the Carolina Panthers have done this year, but I'm not buying them as a Super Bowl team. Nor do I buy them as a super serious playoff threat if and when they do get there. The Colts, what a story. I cannot wait to watch Phillip Rivers at the ripe age of 44 play on Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks of all teams. If he wins, if the Colts win, we need a movie about this last week. But they continue to fall. But man alive, I cannot wait. The game I'm most excited for, Colts Seahawks on Sunday. The Steelers climb up a couple spots after beating Baltimore. The Ravens fall a few spots after losing to Pittsburgh. The Vikings climb up 4 after a shutout win over the Commanders. The Bengals fall down a few spots after losing to Buffalo. The Cardinals stay put at 24. The Commanders go down to 25. That's a bad football team right now, man. And without Jaden Daniels, who should not see the field for the rest of the year, this has been a very lost season for them. The Jets at 26. The Saints climb up a couple spots after beating the Buccaneers. The Falcons continue to fall. Talk about bad football teams and disappointing seasons. Atlanta certainly amongst those teams. A lot of people picking them to win the NFC South coming into this year, believing in Michael Penix as the next guy. It certainly doesn't look like that. I know he got hurt, but just didn't look like an answer at quarterback for the long term. The Browns drop a spot after losing to Tennessee. The Titans climb up a spot after beating the Browns. The Giants are at 31, and the Raiders stay put at number 32 as the worst team in the NFL. So those, I should say, are the Week 15 power rankings. And we'll kick off Week 15 here in a couple hours if you're watching this live with Buccaneers, Falcons. Both teams wearing throwback uniforms, which is great, which both are on set. You see that right there. I got the creamsicle and the old red Falcons helmet. So two of the best helmets ever. Hopefully both, well, maybe not Tampa Bay. Atlanta for sure needs to go back to making that their full-time aesthetic. I love the creamsicles, but the red and pewter that the Buccaneers roll out is great. So they shouldn't get rid of that. They use the creamsicles the perfect amount, like 4 games a year. That's perfect. I think that's the right usage of a great throwback while also not getting rid of an elite look right now. But we'll be back on Friday. In terms of the programming notes, we'll do the full Week 15 preview as well as Steelers-Dolphins preview to get you set for Monday night if you subscribe for all the Steelers content. So a double dip of me on Friday, full Week 15 preview, as well as Steelers-Dolphins preview to get you set for the weekend. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, whether you're listening as a podcast or watching this on YouTube. Again, we will be back on Friday with the full Week 15 preview, as well as the Steelers-Dolphins standalone preview for all my Steelers fanatics who tune into the channel. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all that fun YouTube stuff. Might not seem like a lot, but it helps out the channel. If you're listening as a podcast, leave a comment, leave a review, and get us climbing up all these podcast charts. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be back on Friday. This is the Pump Fake.